All right, so tell me about Dad listening to the episode.
It's a combination of many things. One, it's getting your work judged by somebody else. Two, it's, getting your work judged by a family member. Three, it's listening to yourself talk. And four, it's knowing my father and his preferences. I am 100% certain he is not going to really appreciate it. It may be a bad podcast objectively. I'm just saying that even if this was quality content, it's just not his bag.
If this was the best podcast featuring two brothers exploring the Tokusatsu universe, which it most assuredly is not, then he still would not like it.
Welcome to Brokusatsu, two brothers' exploration of Tokusatsu shows and related media. I'm Harry.
And I'm Sam, and I apologize for my notes this session because I was going through maybe some of the most brutal food poisoning of my life, and so these notes are going to be pretty lit.
Do you have any idea what the particular cause of that was?
Well, there's two possibilities. Possibility one, I undercooked something like the dum-dum I am. Option two, a vendor from work tried to kill me and slipped me some poisoned food to taste at a sampler this weekend. Either of those two options are on the table. Either I am incompetent or someone is trying to whack me.
It's a dog-eat-dog business in the food service industry. Although, very specifically, it's not eating dogs because they don't serve those anymore.
Not until the regulations go through.
Speaking of assassination...
Flawless transition. This week's episode.
Episode 5 and 6 of Kamen Rider Double. Girl A. Episode 5, Papa's a Kamen Rider.
So this episode begins at a public event where the Kamen Rider Shotaro is playing a bodyguard for a local politician who is unveiling a renewable energy tower, like a solar tower at a wind farm. And so clearly she's going to be the villain, because renewable energies makes her the villain.
Futo City, you may have noticed in lots of shots, there's just wind turbines and fans and things like that everywhere. So it's a city that's big on renewable energy. Futo Tower is prominent in a lot of shots, and actually it's a major plot point later on in the series. We'll get to it. This is a wonderful sci-fi universe where they're actually putting energy into major metropolitan clean energy projects.
Well, it does make sense for this town specifically to not have, a lot of fossil fuels just lying around for the monsters to be exploding.
I do wonder, though, if certain Gaia members could be used for renewable energy.
Probably.
You just give a guy the solar memory, and they just say, alright, stand there facing to the right for 8 hours a day, and then you just do it in shifts.
I mean, I know that these shows aren't great on, conservation of mass and energy, but... there has to be some combination of Gaia memories that could literally just power the entire Earth, right? That could solve all problems, that could feed the hungry, that could create power for all of mankind.
Well, there's always a cost, Sam.
But what is the cost, Terry? What is the cost? The only cost seems to be that people slowly get pale and get addicted to their Gaia memories. And would that kind of be a good thing?
This is fun.
The abundance Gaia memory. The harvest Gaia memory. Don't we want him to get addicted to just producing food and handing it out everywhere?
Well said. Speaking of manipulating the innocent, the politician lady is using her young daughter to try to sell everybody on the project. The daughter is showing off the plans and saying very cute things in a very media-friendly way.
Yeah, she is getting a lot of crap for this from basically everyone in attendance. This is just not a thing. In America, it is assumed that children and family members are going to be props for politicians. Politicians have children specifically so they can put them on campaign postcards.
Well, it's context, Sam. The context is about 10 seconds into the speech, a machine gun level of bullets start tearing apart the whole presentation and digging into bodyguards and blowing the hell out of people. So that this child is not exactly... this isn't a puff piece. This is a firing line.
in theory, she wasn't aware of that yet. Like, she does become aware of it later in the episode, and yes, she does.
She literally was already aware of it because she already hired Shotaro to be there. She's been getting death threats.
Okay. In that context, yes, she is a terrible mother.
Shotaro has to appear to be a terrible bodyguard because he runs off to the side. He actually is doing a bit of a secret identity for Kamen Rider Double.
After one of the police officers gets shot in the leg in, a very humorous fashion. The non-back scratcher police officer, I forget what his name is.
Makura.
Or rather, I don't care what his name is.
Makura. Back scratcher guy is Jin.
Okay, I will forget that. I even have a printed off sheet in front of me. I didn't include their names. I just have cop and back scratcher cop.
Look, it's one thing to confuse Wakana and the mysterious radio host lady, but if you forget the name of the cop and the secondary cop, I'm not going to yell at you.
So there's a machine gun just ripping through the crowd. Very few people actually getting hit. Very little blood.
People know to scatter in Futo City. They probably all played Drive-By growing up like we did.
And there is a very important thing to note during this particular transformation into Kamen Rider. Philip is sitting down when he transforms into the Kamen Rider. And so therefore, he does not fall down and injure himself.
Well, he was already sitting. He was just kind of lounging.
I'll take it.
I wonder if this episode was the actor for Philip was shooting something somewhere else, because all of his scenes are in the, I don't want to say the Drive pit, but that's what's called in Drive. That they're all in, like, the secret underground lab area where you're just kind of sitting there, usually the same shot, just like, oh yeah, activate the memory, put it in the thing, pass out. So he may have been filming something else.
Or possibly the actor was recuperating from the repeated head injuries from the previous episodes of constantly falling down during transformations.
Yeah, well, together, Kamen Rider Double runs out, bats away the shots, but is not able to see the shooter. And after, like, a minute of silence, he's ready to run off. But he's stopped when the young girl calls out to him, calls him Papa.
An important note during this bodyguarding sequence, the Kamen Rider, in order to move his parties to safety, has them run through the field of fire while he remains crouched behind a bush.
Well, he's batting away the shots with the Cyclone metal stuff. Cyclone metal.
This is well before that.
Well...
He's not a very good bodyguard, and we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, anyway. Intro. Sam, did you watch it this time?
Okay. I did watch the opening credits this time, and they're fine. I'm not sure what you were expecting me to say here, Harry. They're the intro credits for a show.
I was playing it up a little, but they are one of the better intros.
Okay, great. I mean, it's the intro credits. I'm going to go back to skipping them.
That's probably fine. I've learned I'm a sucker for songs because they do the same thing in the most recent Sentai series with Lupin Ranger v Pat Ranger. When you have two people kind of singing different songs but coming together on certain parts, I'm just a huge sucker for that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When it's karaoke time, I am all about the duets. Like a good karaoke duet, you and another person on stage just singing a top 40 song, that is a magical moment to behold. But this is just intro credits, Harry.
Alright. I'm not going to fight you on this. We get back into the episode.
Kamen Rider has recovered one of the bullets from the sniper gun, and it is a big fucking bullet. Like, it is a thumb-sized caliber round, like an anti-tank round.
Yeah, it's like someone's shooting ballpoint pens into targets right next to this young child. Client who, and I had to look up the name, Miyabi Kusahara. There's a brief flashback to her getting threats hiring Shotaro. Yeah, she says that in this town, people don't believe in politics, so she has to put on a show with her young child.
You can't really blame people. Like, if your town is overrun with monsters that are constantly melting buildings and killing thousands, wouldn't you quickly give up on politicians as well?
It's hard to believe in public works projects when they start getting blown up after a week.
I mean, you can believe in the construction industry in the town. It is a very, very good construction industry.
Yeah, second only to the abandoned warehouse district of the Power Rangers shows. They're able to get things back up and running lickety-split.
Maybe they're joined. The abandoned warehouse district, that's where they keep all the supplies to rebuild the towns in the Kamen Rider series.
I like the idea of a building being knocked down and then its insides just kind of extending and folding out and just being a new building. Like, it's just auto-dispensing new buildings to be blown up.
They would have to come up with something like that to, just to keep rebuilding everything in this town.
Shotaro starts getting a lot of shit from people because he apparently just ran away when bullets were hitting everyone.
Now, does Back Scratcher Cop not know he's a Kamen Rider?
No, he has a secret identity. You've only seen O's before, right? his identity wasn't so much secret, is that the main character was a weird hobo living in a store and nobody just really knew who the guy was.
I don't remember what Kamen Rider series I've seen, Harry. You probably have a better idea than I do.
You've seen O's.
I've seen O's. Great.
Meanwhile, back in the secret lab, Philip... I think you complained about this in your notes. It's the one episode when Philip was actually properly braced and ready for the transformation.
Somehow he fell off the ramp and into a garbage can.
Stuck in a bucket, very humorously. And there's lots of
Yes.
scenes with him and Akiko. Well, Akiko trying to get him out of it, but Philip not really caring, because he doesn't give a shit about physical things.
So we bounce to the politician lady, and she is having another meeting with Shitaro the bodyguard, and they're in a building and come under a weapon attack again.
Yeah, it should be said the shooter has terrible goddamn aim.
Yeah, just sprays a lot of bullets and hits no one.
He gets, what, like 5 attempts in on this lady over the course of these 2 episodes, and doesn't get close
It's
to
almost
disgracing
like
her.
the first episode he gets 5 attempts on her.
There's another scene where Shitaro grabs her out of the way. I think a couple more random bodyguards hit, and he sends out his little bat camera to get photos of the area, but still can't find the shooter.
Yes, it's almost as though it's an invisible gunman with terrible, terrible aim.
That Gaia memories would totally make that possible. Like invisible memory or vanish memory, something like that. Did you ever read Powers, Sam?
The Brian Michael Bendis?
Yeah.
I read a few issues of it, and then I watched a few episodes of the PS4 live-action series.
Big mistake.
Or am I conflating those two?
I mean, one was based on the other. But there's just a great scene in the first issue when the mortician is dealing with a dead body. It's like, well, I got no fucking idea because everybody's running around with superpowers and she could be dead from a time travel machine or a weird rig out or whatever. He just has to drink some coffee and feel better about it.
So we now flash to the Evil family. They're having dinner and discussing their concerns for the town's future. They're very worried about a renewable energy plant being built in the city.
Also, Ryubi is just a cranky old guy and hates the design of the tower. He calls it space-age garbage.
Kind of ironic for a man designing like sci-fi monsters in his spare time.
Yeah, but he's very old school and Renaissance. You know, he's got the big chandeliers in his home. He calls his secret organization the museum.
They do mention that the territory that the tower is being built in falls under Wakana's, not Wakana's, Psycho's district, right?
Yeah, it's Psycho's turf, so it's theoretically her problem to deal with.
Now, so the town is then broken up into different turfs for the monsters to menace. Is that something we can assume?
Well, I mean, they're dealing Gaia memories in different areas. You know, you got your lieutenants dealing products in certain areas. Kirihiko probably came up from the street, just dealing Gaia memories in his own way.
So Psycho and Kirihiko are in charge of taking care of this politician and her evil, evil solar tower. We flash back to the lab. Philip is still stuck in the garbage can, and the bullet is not a bullet, it is a tooth.
This monster is sneezing giant fangs at people.
Another flash to the politician and her child, who is having a meeting with Shitaro. And the child keeps calling Shitaro Mr., and this might be a translation thing. Do you know what's going on with... Shitaro seems very thrown back by a child calling him Mr.
I think there's a thing where she's calling him, like, Oji-san. It's kind of basically calling him a little bit old, something like that. Whereas he is ridiculously young, actor and stuff like that, as he's just being a little bothered by a lot, like, hey, I'm not a mister.
I kind of wish there was a cultural pop-up whenever something like that happens.
That's a road that you can go down in a lot of wrong ways. Eventually leads to the Keikaku meets plan type stuff.
I have no idea what that means. I understand none of the words you just said.
You don't even know that meme. Okay. Shotaro is kind of like subtly trying to figure out what the kid's deal and thinking that he, Kamen Rider, is her dad, because he definitely isn't. Shotaro has likely never fucked.
I think that is safe to assume.
And he kind of goes with the kid and says, yeah, I'm friends with Kamen Rider. I take photos of him for my newspaper.
It is also during this meeting that we start to uncover that really what's going on with this politician is that she is involved in a land purchasing deal, which a local politician being involved in a semi-shady land purchase deal, it does set off a lot of red flags for me. And it kind of highlights like this whole plan about the renewable solar tower energy thing. Like, it is a much more half-baked plan than she was leading us all to believe, because securing the land is kind of the first step of a plan for any kind of public works. And it seems that she has the whole design ready for it, and she's ready to build, ready to move on everything, ready with all the funding, except she hasn't yet purchased the land.
Is eminent domain not a deal that you could do things like this? Like, you would have to pay the guy for the property, but
I have zero idea what the laws are for Japan,
Yeah.
especially for Japan local municipalities that are beset by monsters on a weekly basis.
I mean, I don't know how that works in America specifically.
It varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction in America.
There's a high-powered board meeting where Seiko is firing teams to just try to deal with various problems. She's apparently canned 6 groups of people on some kind of design project and is hiring a 7th. Kirihiko is, blandly amused by the bloodthirstiness of his new wife.
They are very cute together.
Yeah.
Yes, I ship this couple. I ship this couple very hard.
Can you ship a couple when they're already married? I mean, I guess you kind of can.
Well, I'm rooting for them.
Alright, fair enough.
More shit is talked about the mother involving the child in her professional life, though, as Harry has mentioned already, involving the child in her professional life does mean putting her in the sights of like a lone gunman.
When you have to ask yourself questions like, does the Baby Gap sell bulletproof vests? You're making bad life choices. The politician is arguing with a guy who appears to be using the property to drive around RC cars and hang out with his buddies. There's a big ol' argument. He actually seems really nice to the kid, saying, you should be doing something better with your time. This is kind of shitty that you're being pulled into this.
How dare your mother involve you in a deal that is literally putting your life in danger. Kamen Rider also locks eyes with the drug dealer for the first time.
Across a crowded street, their eyes lock. We find out that the politician part of why she is working so hard is that her husband was killed last year in a very similar deal.
Which is something you really should mention to a bodyguard when you bring them on.
This deal has already got lots of blood on it. The father was shot apparently right on top of the kid, who may be blocking out the memory or something like that.
This kid is going to need a lot of therapy when she grows up.
And the mom has made the great idea to tell the child that the father is not dead, he's just in hiding as a superhero in the city. And this, of course, is the one city where that actually turned out to have a masked superhero, so now she has to deal with this.
Armed with this information, that the husband was gunned down, and the tooth bullet, and just various talking with, oh god, what's her name? Akiko. Philip is finally able to discover that the Gaia memory being used is a crustacean-based one.
Anomalocaris, a ancient sea monster.
It is a lobster sniper. It is a lobster with a gun.
He was able to be invisible in all the scenes before because he was firing from the water. Philip says, so just whatever you do, make sure you stay away from the water. And Shotaro looks over and they're having a dramatic talk right on the beach. And yeah, this goes bad.
Immediately, the politician and her other bodyguards come under fire. And Kamen Rider starts deflecting shots and manages to knock the lobster memory out of the water with his cyclone power. And eliminates it with his own gun. For the only thing that can kill a lobster with a gun is a superhero with a gun.
I think this is the first time he actually uses trigger. So now you've officially seen all of his basic memories.
Mm-hmm.
The lobster man, after he's defeated, Shotaro is genuinely surprised because he was pretty sure it was going to be that jerk of a RC car guy, but instead it's the toady henchman.
But then there's a second lobster sniper.
Yeah, on the grassy knoll, there was a second lobster.
Mm-hmm. That is the act break between episode 1 and 2.
Episode 6, The Price of Lying. There's a real quick save where he transfers to Luna memory and uses the stretchy arm to grab the principal and the daughter out of harm's way.
They manage to get out of there, and Shotaro proceeds to mom shame the politician for a while for lying to her daughter and putting her in harm's way. Which, on the one hand, I'm on his side. On the other hand, is still not a good look to mom shame. So I'm kind of torn on this.
You know what? I think there are certain circumstances under which mothers should be shamed for their parenting, and one of those is bringing your child into shady land deals that got their father killed that you're lying about, and that are still, like, getting machine guns. I am on team shame.
They take the politician to a safe house, which is literally on a river. I gotta ask, is this entire town just on like a lake or on rivers everywhere? Because it seems there could be no place in this town that isn't within sight of a body of water.
It might be a port city, which would explain some of its prominence.
But even in a port, like, we live in a port city, and I cannot see water from my house, you know?
Well, I mean, she needs to do the land deals in specific areas and stuff like that, you know?
She really doesn't. There's Starbucks everywhere.
But you know what? If you've endured like half a dozen assassination attempts near water, you could probably call up a guy and say like, "Hey, can we meet somewhere else? I'll pay for bus fare." The kid is cute and wants an explanation of the powers, like any good young nerd. And Shotaro is not able to initially break it to the kid that Kamen Rider Double is not her father. Meanwhile, Philip, because he's Philip, is able to figure out that that particular memory is actually not something that will be sold to customers. It's a development model because of certain parts of the circuitry. So whoever is the actual Amana color, Anomalo Karis, which is obviously Takamura,
I'm just gonna keep staying lobster.
the real Lobster Man, is actually overseeing Gaia memory production. So that's the whole deal with this land at this facility. Seiko is about to tear Lobster Man a new one when he desperately asks Kirihiko for some help in dealing with this 2-in-1 monster man, they keep calling him.
So yeah, it's episode 6, and we're finally gonna get to see one of the big bads mix it up with a Kamen Rider.
He uses his Nazca memory, which may, again, a first, maybe.
I do believe this is the first time well, it's definitely the first time we've seen him fighting, and not the first time we've seen him transformed.
Santa and Watcherman are hanging out, eating ramen together, and Watcherman gives Akiko some pretty on point info about the underground facility.
Shotaro takes this information and decides to send a secret note to the daughter of the politician to have her come out to appear and meet him so he can lay some truth bombs on her about her father's past.
Instead, he kind of falters and digs in deeper, saying, "Yeah, Kamen Rider Double's your dad. He really loves you and stuff like that." And the kid is dragged deeper and deeper into a web of secrets and assassination.
Worst fucking bodyguard ever. He separated a child from its mother. He drew her out to appear.
At this point, he would have every expectation that the mother is a bullet magnet, so I'm not going to falter for that.
Yeah, he did separate the child from the mother, so maybe bonus points there.
But instead, the Lobster Man is coming for the child.
Yeah, of course. Because of course that's going to happen.
Shotaro manages to get a tracer on her with his little spider watch.
And then Kirihiko jumps Shotaro, and there is a fight between Kamen Rider and whatever the hell his dopant is.
Nazca, the Nazca dopant.
What does Nazca mean?
There's like those Nazca lines in certain like areas, like the ancient mythology stuff.
I don't... What?
That you don't know about the Nazca lines?
No, I don't, Harry. Assume I don't know anything.
So there were these big kind of drawing things on the ground where people initially thought that they may have just been there due to some kind of farming things or some ancient architecture or stuff like that. But then when later people came by with aircraft or balloons, they saw that these are actually huge drawings that could only be seen from above. Intricate shapes of birds and natural features and like ancient people and things like that. It was kind of an archaeological mystery of like who made these things and why did they make them. In those days, they wouldn't have had aerial things like that. So people thought aliens did it, basically.
So Kamen Rider and Hot Air Balloon Memory fight. And Kamen Rider does him in Stringer Bell style, just getting in close and just laying into him in the chest with his gun.
Yeah, Nazca uses the powers of flight, energy production, and a sword and all that. Kamen Rider uses the power of, I have a gun and I'm just going to shoot you until you die.
It's a nice, brutal takedown. And both of them kind of come away from it pretty drained.
The mother is now meeting with a hostage taker, Takamura, who promptly transforms and is about to tear the shit out of her.
I gotta wonder, so the tattoos that they plug the memories into, is that like a scar that develops over time over repeated memory use, or is that something that they kind of gotta get the first time they get a Gaia memory, or...
They'll get into it in a couple episodes, but it's something that you get implanted when you buy a Gaia memory. They're superpower USBs, but you do need a USB port to use it properly.
I see. He attacks the politician and Kamen Rider. There is a situation where a lobster is holding a gun to the head of a child, and Kamen Rider is pointing a gun at the lobster.
Shoot the hostage! Shoot the hostage!
Yes, take the shot! Take the shot! But what he ends up doing is he bends the bullet with his Luna power.
Luna trigger. Homing shots. It's one of the more useful powers.
He knocks the child free, and him and the monster, they go away and have their own private fight. The monster turns into a big ol' CGI lobster, which is great.
And he summons his water bike, which I think this might be the only time in the whole series where the water bike is actually useful.
It is available on Amazon right now.
And I gotta say, Akiko, get trapped in a transforming battle tank once, shame on you.
How many times has she been trapped in that thing? Like, that. This is an OSHA violation. This is a very serious OSHA violation. Like, if you could just be walking around an office and suddenly get trapped inside a transforming tank, like, you really need to have signs and, like, protective barriers. Like, there needs to be a safety bar. There needs to be a chain that people cannot walk across to accidentally end up inside the secret battle tank.
What makes it worse is that because she's the chief, she technically inherited this massive violation, so she's the one who has to deal with it.
I mean, Shitara was the one who had it installed, though I suppose she is his boss, so...
She just showed up and there's all these illegal modifications. There's a vigilante superhero who's, like, set up their... Do you think that, in the DC universe and things like that, there are real estate people who have to worry that some of their abandoned properties have gotten secret layers installed in them that they're going to have to deal with when they tear them down?
That was probably a plotline in the Gotham PD comic.
We took out the supporting wall, and then an ice beam came out and shot all the workers. I gotta pay everybody for extra time.
So the monster is defeated, the day is saved, and so Psycho and Kirihiko blow up the secret underground lab. Though I am very confused about this whole land deal situation. Like, it sounds like the politician is walking away from the solar tower at this point, and was the entire thing that she needed to buy the land from the evil corporation in the first place?
I don't know the exact specifics, but I think she has finally gotten enough attempts on her life that she's gonna back off from this process for now. Yeah.
What was the threat? Couldn't they just agree to not sell the land? Like, if she was, sniffing around and she was trying to pressure, couldn't they just keep saying no? Why did they need to try and assassinate her in the first place? Or was it really all about the aesthetics? Was the evil family just desperately trying to keep this ugly-ass tower from being built in their backyard?
I could come up with lots of reasons, like you wouldn't want someone sniffing around a secret super drug facility, but Ryubi is exactly the kind of guy who would try to assassinate a politician simply on the aesthetics of the projects they're pushing.
He is a man with vision.
And what's more important, he's a man with a evil organization of superpowers to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yes, but anyway, renewable energy is defeated and the day is saved. There's a comedic stinger where everyone is drinking vinegar in the lab because vinegar is magic. And it kind of is, I appreciate the medicinal powers of vinegar, especially as someone who has recently gone through some very serious food poisoning.
Yeah, and as our episode closes, there's a young girl who is super convinced by everyone she has grown up to trust that the vigilante running around the streets of her city is her father, who never comes home and never will.
There's no possible way that will go bad for her.
Especially not in some later arcs when Kamen Rider gets framed for murder. How's the mother going to deal with that?
Hopefully by taking her out of the country. Or at least out of the city.
They kicked that idiot ball a little further down the road because who cares?
We are done with the episode. Now on to the questions, I believe, correct?
Correct. So, Sam, your kind of speculation / philosophy question for this episode.
All right. So the Sam speculation corner. So I'm kind of going back to the evil family plotline. So we're seeing secret underground labs where they're developing these Gaia memories, but they're also back to disrupting the local infrastructure, disrupting the local construction enterprise. Like, these are supposed to be the richest people in town, like the people who are the captains of industry. They're supposed to have a finger in every pot. I just don't see why they're not involved in the construction of the solar power. Why are they trying to stop all industries except specifically for Gaia memories?
Well, I mean, the facility that they wanted to build the thing on was directly on a secret lab. I feel like they may have been kind of committed to being against it in this case.
They could have just said no. They could have put up no trespassing signs and then just ignored all her requests for a meeting.
But what if there is some kind of eminent domain thing? Like, if they don't play ball, then at some point you can just kind of force the sale.
It seems like it would be easier to get her unelected with their wealth than to just have her straight assassinated with a Gaia memory. Also much lower profile.
It says something about the incompetence of this particular subordinates that he didn't get the assassination job done. I feel like in the background they're way better at assassinating politicians and things like that. It's just in this case, he used the Lobster Man who, yes, he is hard to find, but on the other hand, it's the worst aim ever.
He was shooting from underwater, though. That does impact, light refraction, aim, and all that. So I can kind of... He was going for spray and pray, and I'm okay with that. I just don't understand, like, the end. What is the end game of this rich family? It sounds like they want to go towards world domination, but they already have world domination. They're already in charge.
It is a puzzle. One will have to unfold in the coming weeks. So we've seen one instance of politicians in Futo City. If for some reason you forgot about how the last time you tried this went in your personal life and decided to get into local politics again, but this time you were in Futo City, what kind of like platforms or initiatives do you think you would put forward? What would your selling points be?
Dissolve the town and move everyone into refugee camps elsewhere, I suppose.
Oh, the Springfield Gambit. Let's just move everything a mile away and hope the problem is solved.
It's not the worst call for, dealing with this particular situation. My experiences in local politics are fairly traumatic, but I think that this town, it could definitely use some effective leadership and an anti-Gaia memory. Either you got to go hard one way or the other. You got to deal with the problem at hand, and that problem is that there's monsters running around the city. So you either have to go hard into fighting them, containing them, controlling them, or just moving everyone away and ignoring them.
I guess just for the purposes of making this interesting, I have to go the opposite way and say, like, I want to Gaia memory in every citizen's hands, Let's take this all the way and see what happens. You were talking about the renewable energy. I want to stick people with superpowered USBs until we configure somebody to, create nuclear power in their off hours. I want our mailmen to be delivering packages at super speeds.
So that's the NRA platform then. So just the problem isn't that there was a lobster with a machine gun. The problem is that there wasn't a good lobster with a machine gun there to stop him.
Gaia memories don't kill people, parentheses, except for when they do, end parentheses. People using Gaia memories kill people. Really, we just need more drivers because those make the Gaia memories kind of safer.
What are the tattoos not safe?
I mean, they're called dopants, so it's kind of like in terms of drugs, like different levels of that's like just made. If you use it through a tattoo, you're kind of mainlining it. If you use a driver, it's a little bit more filtered and it's safer. And I think once you get to the level of Kamen Rider Double, those are basically prescription drugs where they're pretty safe but a bit weaker. But then he just uses a double dose.
Hey, prescription drugs kill more people than any other illicit substance on the market today.
Yeah, I know. It's an imperfect analogy, and I'm trying to work around. I don't know. I mean, if I spoil the mechanics of how all the superpower stuff works, then we're gonna have a lot of boring episodes coming up. Speaking of,
but anyway, to get back to all right.
I was gonna say, speaking of boring episodes.
Oh, great! Yay, filler episode.
We can get into the next episode if you want, or did you have something else you want to say?
No, not really.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, the next two are my least favorite episodes of the series.
Great. Wait, the next two arcs or the next two episodes? So is next episode gonna suck, or the next two, next of our episodes gonna suck, or the next two episodes?
The next episode. The one after that, I think will be a very great episode for us, because it's super interesting in a lot of ways.
Okay.
But next episode is Find the Sea, and if this episode was delving into your dark past of local politics, then we are instead going to the much darker past of your experience with modern dance.
Oh, great.
Are you prepared to step into the streets, Sam?
I am fully prepared to step into the streets, Harry. I have a 3-year fine arts degree from the University of Washington to my name that says I am ready to step it into the streets.
Hells yeah. Our intro music is Memories by Audiobringer, and our outro music is An Ordinary Day in the Life of a Superhero by Lyndon Killam. If you have any comments, corrections, or questions about this show, or literally anything, you can send it to us at brokusatsu@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter. Brokusatsu.